The Whistler in the Woods. In the late 1990s, a man named Tom moved to a secluded cabin deep in the Appalachian Mountains, looking for solitude after a messy divorce. The cabin was old, nestled between towering trees, and the nearest town was over an hour away by truck. Locals in town were friendly enough, but they all shared the same warning. Don't go outside after dark. Tom, a practical man, brushed off their superstitions. He had lived in the woods before. What could possibly be out there that he hadn't already seen? For the first few weeks, life was peaceful. He spent his days chopping wood, fishing in a nearby stream, and enjoying the quiet. But then, strange things started happening. The first sign, it began with a sound. One night, as Tom sat on his porch, enjoying a bottle of whiskey, he heard it, a whistle. It was distant at first, just a slow, eerie tune carried by the wind. He figured it was another hiker or hunter passing through. But the next night, at the exact same time, the whistling returned, closer this time. By the third night, the sound was coming from the edge of the tree line, just beyond the reach of his lantern's glow. It wasn't a random tune. It was deliberate, almost like someone was calling out. Tom grabbed his rifle and walked toward the sound, his boots crunching over dead leaves. "Who's out there?" he called. Silence. He waited, scanning the dark woods. Then just as he turned to head back inside, the whistling started again, right behind him. Tom spun around, raising his gun, but there was nothing there. No movement, no sign of anyone. His skin crawled. He backed toward the house, locking the doors and shutting every window. That night, he barely slept. The handprints. The next morning, Tom stepped outside to find something chilling. Tiny handprints covering his cabin's windows. They were small, too small for an adult, and smeared across the glass as if someone had been pressing their hands against it all night. A shiver ran down his spine. He checked the ground, looking for tracks, but there were none. It hadn't rained, and the dirt was dry. How had someone gotten so close without leaving footprints? That night, the whistling returned, closer than ever. Tom sat by his window with his rifle, waiting. Hours passed. Just when he started to doze off, a loud thump echoed against the side of the house. Then another, and another. Something was throwing rocks at his cabin. Tom grabbed a flashlight and stormed outside, aiming the beam into the darkness. "I don't know who the hell you are, but you'd better get off my property," he shouted. Silence. Then, just as he was about to go back inside, something moved in the trees, a dark shape, low to the ground, scuttling unnaturally fast between the trunks. Tom's breath caught in his throat. Whatever it wasn't human. He bolted inside, locking the door behind him. The whistling continued for hours. The visitors. For the next week, the activity escalated. Dead animals, rabbits, birds, and even a deer began appearing outside his door, their bodies twisted in unnatural ways. The whispers started too, low murmurs drifting through the trees, saying his name. One night, Tom woke up to a sound that made his blood run cold. His front door creaking open. The whistling was inside now, moving slowly through the house. Tom stayed perfectly still, clutching his rifle, his heart hammering. He could hear footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving through the living room. Then the floorboards creaked just outside his bedroom door. A long silence. Then, knock, knock, knock. Tom didn't move. The door handle rattled. The whistling continued, now just inches away from him. Then suddenly, silence. Minutes passed, stretching into an eternity before the first rays of sunlight crept through the windows. Tom waited until morning, then grabbed whatever supplies he could carry and threw them into his truck. He didn't bother locking the door behind him. He didn't care. He just needed to get out. As he sped down the winding mountain roads, he made the mistake of looking in the rearview mirror. A figure stood in the middle of the road, watching him go. It had no face, just smooth, pale skin where its features should have been. Tom never returned. Rules you must respect in the Appalachian Mountains. Never acknowledge voices in the woods. If you hear someone calling your name from the trees, ignore it. It is not human. Never whistle at night. Whistling invites something to follow you. You won't like what comes. Don't look at the figures in the trees. If you see something watching you, pretend you don't. Acknowledge it, and it may come closer. Stay on the trail. If you find an unmarked path or a trail that wasn't there before, don't follow it. It may not lead you back. If you hear footsteps behind you, don't run. Running means you've seen it, and if you've seen it, it will want to see you up close. Cover your windows at night. If you see something staring at you, you're already in trouble. Don't take anything from the forest. Some things belong to the land. Taking them may mean something will come looking for you. If you find a staircase in the woods, walk away. No one knows why they appear, but those who climb them don't come back the same.